Welcome back to Quantum Visions, and in this video we're about to touch on how the government created the ghetto in the history of housing in Black America. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that like and subscribe. Don't forget to click that notification bell so you can get all the videos that I post whenever I post. Let's get it.
Tell the homies I'm in heaven and they ain't got hoods.
Like many songs will tell you,
Bullet holes left in my peak holes.
the story of what housing and other living conditions look like for many Black Americans is pretty bleak, and that's by design. In addition to artists cataloging their very personal experiences,
When the landlord dissed us, no heat. Wonder why Christmas missed us.
it's been proven that the modern phenomenon of concentrated Black poverty was an intentional government-sponsored institution.
So this says an intentional racial discrimination and segregation by the federal government as a principal cause of concentrated poverty, a response to Shield and Watcher.
This is in part why President Biden issued an executive order back in January, intended to right the historical wrongs Black folks have faced when it comes to housing and home ownership in this country. But first, let's take it back.
The dawn of the 20th century, African Americans in major cities lived scattered throughout the city. They weren't segregated particularly. It's only with the Great Migration of 6 to 7 million African Americans north and west escaping the South, the predominant response of the United States government and state and local governments to the Great Migration was to contain Black people in their own neighborhoods. And HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, was particularly a part of this role. With
Right.
precursors to HUD introduced and encouraged racially restrictive covenants, redlining of every major city where African Americans landed. The federal government was
But just looking at this, they try to talk about how my people lazy. My people been out here getting it, been out here grinding. As slaves been grinding. Hey, we ain't never no lazy people. We just been put in the wrong predicament. Man, stop playing with us.
Of urban renewal, infamously called Negro removal by the great James Baldwin.
Urban renewal, which means moving the Negroes out. It means Negro removal. That is what it means. And the federal government is an accomplice to this fact.
That so-called urban renewal also included a federally sponsored interstate highway system, which was intentionally designed to mow through vibrant Black neighborhoods. Take Miami, for example. 2 highways, I-95 and I-395, bulldoze right through the predominantly Black and low-income Overtown neighborhood, previously called Colored Town during segregation.
The Department
So they took the larger estates and ran them through our neighborhoods, practically breaking up our neighborhoods and then separating our neighborhoods on one side and the other. Or they probably just took the other side and took it for themselves, and we stuck on the opposite side, probably, which is the side they consider as the ghetto.
Housing and Urban Development and the federal government writ large in the first 7 decades of the 20th century invested billions of dollars in racial segregation and concentrated poverty. Each time this country created a peculiar institution that subordinated Black people, slavery, Jim Crow, it created and dismantled it. They replaced it with another one. And the iconic Black ghetto, I don't use that as a pejorative, I use it as a descriptor, was a follow-on institution to slavery and Jim Crow. That's the legacy that every new administration inherits, and the Biden administration has as well.
Today, I'm directing the Department of Housing and Urban Affairs and Urban Development to redress historical racism in federal housing policies.
I ain't seen nothing happen yet. This man about to be out of his term, and I haven't seen anything happen yet. They still trying to figure out if they want to give us reparations or not, which they already been saying that they don't want to do it because it's too much money, and the work that we put in, I guess it wasn't good enough during slavery and up until slavery and into the civil rights movement and all of that. None of that work that we did mattered. All of the little bitty nuances that they try to give us, like Section 8 and all of that, just to make it seem like they're helping. But I digress.
This executive order is just one of 4 signed by President Biden, designed to address racial equity in the United States. And while this progress is a step in the right direction, there's still a lot of harm to undo.
Segregation started coming down after the passage of the Fair Housing Act of 1968, which actually only got passed in the wake of Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination. In 1980, 8 out of 10 Black people would have had to move in order to be evenly integrated within metropolitan areas. Half of Black people who live in metropolitan areas still live in neighborhoods of high segregation. So we've had modest improvement, but segregation persists. And economic segregation has spiked since 1970. The so-called American dream is only working for a relatively small slice of the population that can afford to buy their way into what I call gold standard neighborhoods that have the best of everything. And everybody else struggles, and the Black poor struggle the most.
Yep.
So
We've been struggling. And they know we've been struggling. They got it set up to where we continue to struggle so that we stay on the bottom, so that we do not understand who we are. For a government to systemically create a system for a particular group of people means that that particular group of people is somebody that is a little bit more unique than the rest of the people, because everybody else has everything except us in this country. And when I say us, I mean Black people and Hispanic people, because Hispanic people are treated just as much as bad as the Black people. They just don't notice it yet. They just haven't really realized it, but they treat us all the same way. And they treat us bad. And they never make it seem like they make it seem like they want to treat us good, but they don't really have anything to really show for it. It's just word of mouth, little sweet talking. But let's continue.
Now, well, some advocates are hopeful.
Home applauds this executive order for really focusing on historical patterns of racial segregation and discrimination in housing,
while others remain cautiously optimistic. Here's Professor Cashin's suggestion.
I don't take credit for this, but I applaud it. There should be an equity analysis. The federal government spends so much money, it should track who's getting it by neighborhood, and it should pursue racial equity in the distribution of resources. There's been a lot of movement at the local level on this. For the example of Baltimore, they did an equity analysis and found that they were spending 4 times as much money in majority white neighborhoods as in majority Black ones. I think we're in this moment where people are waking up, sad to say, because of the slow execution of George Floyd, to the realities of systemic racism. And I believe
they do not feel like Black Lives Matter, and it's very sad that we even have to sit up here and say this. Wake up, white America. And all of these things, all of these people's names right here on this poster right here: Ahmaud Arbery, Oscar Grant, Terrence Kutcher, Sandra Bland, George Hill Jr., with that's Laquan McDonald, Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Walter Scott. All these people names that we have to say, and we still screaming Black Lives Matter. It's apparent that they don't matter. And it's not even the police problem. It's a governmental problem, because they have the government set up a certain way. If we really matter to the government, then there's no way that the police will be shooting us down in the street, or former police officers will be running us down in their white pickup truck because we're jogging through the opposite side of the neighborhood because it was redlined, and the other side is the Black people neighborhood, and you're running in the white people neighborhood, and you need to be removed from here. So we are going to unalive you, Ahmaud Arbery. Yes. Let's continue.
There is an ascending majority multiracial coalition that wants something better than a separate unequal nation that overinvests in some neighborhoods and disinvests and preys upon people in other neighborhoods. I'm hopeful, but you can never stop working for and organizing for the country you want. Generations more radical and less tired than me. There's always another generation coming.
And you know what is crazy? She said, we don't get no justice, you don't get no sleep. The people who unalive us, they sleep good at night. They're not tossing and turning. They're sleeping. They're getting their peace. It's us who's squirm and squirm and cry out to God, because we do have a God, and we cry out to him because they are able to get sleep and we can't. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the like and subscribe. Don't forget to click the notification bell if you want to see more videos like this. Let's get it. Peace.